When I talk about my family, how we've suffered with AIDS, the people we've lost, I always cry. But I'm like, this time I'll be brave to tell people, because they don't know that they are our roles right now as grandmothers. In this tribunal, I want everybody to know what is really touching us. That's what I've come to do.
To be a grandmother, you must not be scared.
Mbadde mabega nga nyigirizibwa ng'ate sina bwe mbuulira nange muli ne mpulira nga nnyina nandibadde ndi mutono naye mpulira nja kwogera nga nnwanako n'abalala basobole okubeera obulungi.
This is not about charity. Charity is too arbitrary. This is about rights. Grandmothers have held communities together at a time when nobody knew what to do about the number of deaths, the economic and the social impacts on communities.
They have embraced this challenge because if they do not, it dehumanizes them. It dehumanizes their children. It dehumanizes their community. It dehumanizes man. It dehumanizes you and me.
Ang zangeng lal. Bengesaba. Ngicela unginike amandla.
Nowhere in the great panoply of human rights provisions is it once asserted that it is the responsibility of the grandmothers of the world to deliver rights to the people. Quite the opposite. They have human rights, and they have come to claim them.
The tribunal is designed to be that effervescent moment in time where things come together. So you have one of the worst plagues that has happened in the 20th, 21st century. No one would dispute that. But out of the plague, at the grassroots, at community level, are all these grandmothers earnestly, urgently, supernaturally laboring to keep their orphan children going. And they do. You sensed a reconstruction of society, which no one has yet reasonably chronicled.
Jangan jalan,
Impilo yami ayingijabulisi njengalabanye bafati. Indvodza yashona, abantu abami lababili nabo bashona. Ngathola ukuthi ngiphila neligciwane lembulalave HIV. Kubuhlungu kakhulu kushiwa ngumndeni wakho. Akwendeki masinyane.
This is my husband, my firstborn child. He was a daughter.
Uyanakekela. Unakekele. Uqhubeke ukhuthade. Uthi ungesabi udabangcono. Kanzi kanye ilanga uyobahlola ukhanze ukuthi sewufile. Ulahlekelwa luthando nebenginalo kanye nemndeni wakho. Uphinze ulahlekelwe indlela umndeni wakho lobona. Nginakekele bantwana bami labasithupha. Sengiminyaka leminyenti ngacala nginakekela tinzanzane. Ngaphandle kwelisito lahulumende. Ngihle ngibade ngisho imali yokuthenga gesi nekuthi ngikhone kubeka kudla etafuleni. Kuthi ngawuficisha ifridge kude gesi. Ubese uyamangala ukuthi abaphani labantwana. They are crying, we are hungry. Gogo, we are hungry. It's painful. Kuva kwami kwekucala ngaSwapholo kwakungumnyaka wa-2001. Ngulapho ngase ngicala khona kusebenza naSwapholo. Ngase sengicala kuhamba imihlangano. Safundziswa ukuthi singaphila njani sibafati labaphila neligciwane emangweni yethu. Kusebenza naSwapholo kusibusiso lesikhulu empilweni yami. Bebabaningi bantwana bayebeda ekuseni nasemini. Kodwa ngangibona ukuthi balambile kude labakudlako. Ngase ngikhuluma nebakaSwapholo ngale nginga labantwana. Ngulapho sabe sesenda i-neighborhood care program. Sisita abantwana laba ngamashumi lamane 45. Ngibanakekela ngekubondla.
Awu, udlela lapho wena. Udlela lapho.
Ngibaphekele, ngiphinze ngento esiqiniseko sekuthi bayaya esikolweni futhi nempilo yabo iyanakekelwa. Le HIV bacedzile batali babo sebasele bahleli bodwana. Hulumende udzinga ukuthi ucale ukukhulumisana nathi. Khona batokwati ukuthi dinginga mbamba ngutiphi.
Nilejukira nga lobby nazze okuŋŋamba nti ŋŋenda mu Canada. Mu butuufu nninga yali mu kirooto. Olaye bufunye obudde. Nga terabite nabate nga teyi. Kenny, komawo nange nsiibulaako. Akawuka ka siriimu bwe kaatuuka mu kitundu kyewaffe nze kankosa nnyo. Nalekebwawo nzekka okulabirira abaana ne bazzukulu bange mu maka gange. Obwavu bwali bungi nnyo mu maka gange, ate n'emmere yeeyongera okukeewa. Mu mwaka ogwa 2011 Kitovu Mobile yatandika okuyamba abakadde. Embeera yange netandika okukyuka. Kitovu Mobile yannyamba ne famire yange okufuna ennyumba obusiri bw'envu endiirwa. Twafuna obuzibu bungi ennyumba bwe yali ng'ezimbibwa, naye nga buva mu bazzukulu b'omugenzi baze. Kati wano olaba nga baŋŋamba nti wano si wawo, naye wano nga we nabeeranga okumala emyaka kati obaaga. Balamu bange bantiisatiisa emirundi ena nti bajja kunzita, ne bannumiriza obutaddamu kweyongera mu ttaka lyabwe n'okubasasulanga obusuulu, okutuusa lwe nagenda ku puliisi, naye nali mwavu. Ne bansaba omutwalo nimbawa siringi 6, ne baba nga tebalina kye bankolera. Naye kakati nsobodde okwogera mu nsi yonna, ensi esobodde okubiwulira.
Community-based organizations are not only responding to the needs of the grandmothers, they are also empowering the grandmothers to speak for themselves. And we hope through this, we are going to create a huge voice, and nobody will resist the voice, because it will be too loud, and the grandmothers are already doing it.
Kyenandiyendera irala ensi yona yona etegeere era butiniife otwetiisa obuvunaanyizibwa abantu abandi bwe batali kwetiika, ababairewo nga bazaire balabirira baana butiniife, oba kusomesa baana abaali baire babasomesa bazirawo butiniife. Kale nga twenda tubalage nti tulina kye tuliikola, ti nsonga tuli bakaire, bategeere nti tulina omulimu gwe tuliikola. Tusangaire kale ndi mukulembeze mu kitundu kyange era amanyiddwa ng'omukyalo omuvumu era ow'amaanyi. Bwendi
era emigenda gye yayawulawo ekitegeeza nga nze ekiri kundobera okugaba ku itaka eryo. Eitaka lyange nze nendalikozesa kulisimba miti lyona lyona, ekitegeeza paati ye n'abantu ereko naba nga nzira buyinza kabiri kukola ki.
Jjo ly'abalamu
nalondebwa n'akakiiko k'eggombolola akakwata ku by'ettaka tuulako.
Naye awamuwala ngenda nangoba tukoze tutya nze ebyokutola mwenda tyabyogera era ndibigulirira wano nga mukama wange ali kubyogera eitaka lino ndiryali iwe oli kwefonza ebintu byange namukoba nti ntya kuba eitaka nditulimiraku nayamba baana ninze mwene
kukoba ekyande
bwe nali sinabeerako ku kakiiko kano bajjajja baali babivaako nga teri ssuubi lyakuwulirizibwa olw'okuba nga bakadde. Okuva lwe neeyunga ku kakiiko kano
noono obwananyini alinabo okulima aye yena obuvunaanyizibwa tali kwemaliriza kyova obona emiigo kituufu giri ena oli gye yengiramu omuntu
ensonga 5 ezaakwata ku kunyaga ettaka zaasalibwawo ng'obuwanguzi buli eri bajjajja. Naye sisobola kugaana nti sirina nnaku. Nga bangi abalala amaka gange gabonyeebonye nnyo olw'akawuka ka siriimu.
okututoola kw'abantu be twali tugemagana nabo nga n'abatuyamba babanga n'abafiire. Ekintu ekyo kintu kibi ate bali kufa batyo bali kutulekera obuvunaanyizibwa kabiri obw'abamulekwa abo okubakuuma.
Abantu 17 mu nnyumba yange, abaana bange ne bamulekwa. Nina ennyiike ku mutima n'omugugu gwe gumu nga bajjajja bannange, naye mpulira bulungi nnyo nga nkola emirimu egya nakyewa. Tutuula buli Lwakusatu ne bajjajja bannange nga tugabana okusoomoozebwa era ne bye tufunye mu bulamu bwaffe.
Mudiwaluzeeku mudiseeseekwere mufulumye n'obundi obuli munda nga bwe twatya amakulu nenda nti obwakule n'obwakule.
Kiri obukugu okutuuka ku bajjajja abali mu bugubi.
Obuli misoole mwaida n'amatira ati mulivaamu ensawo oba muvaamu eyina
abalekeddwa okumanya eddembe lyabwe. Tukozesa ennyimba, katemba n'amazina okubasanyusa n'okubamanyisa ku siriimu.
Kale kyenayega nti eyo twena abakaire tulina okutawalala eddoboozi tuboneke nti tusindika okukobera gavumenti kiki kye twenda. Nga bw'abakobye kabiri ife twaseerera twavaako ku mulamwa aye nga tikuseerera tukaabula oba tusaba oba twebaza oba tulira naye bali kuwulira kye tukola ki kye tukoba. Tuli kujja mu maiso.
You see a narrative where the end is in sight around the AIDS pandemic. That's tremendously worrying because all of the work that the community-based organizations have been doing to reclaim lives and to resurrect lives and to rebuild in the wake of the ravages of AIDS continues. It's far from over.
Okay, you're home for the next 5 days.
One of the things that we're hoping the tribunal will do is shine a spotlight on where things are right now, both in terms of the continuing challenges, but also in the extraordinary strides that community-based organizations and communities have made, and how far there is to go, but how far they've come and what they're now able to do. And just at the moment where you could truly turn the tide of AIDS, now suddenly we're seeing some whisper about the end of the AIDS pandemic. Far from it. The work isn't just beginning, but it's in full swing. And we have to make sure that the next step that actually allows people to have a vision of a future, a real and meaningful and full future, not just pushing back the ravages, keeping the tide at bay, but actually moving into the real rebuilding of these communities and societies, that this is not the moment that we leave or betray those grandmothers, those orphaned grandchildren, those communities, this continent.
Kungangisithe kakhulu. Lo munye khona lo tawushayeka. Uyakathi uphumele ebaleni uthola sito kakhulu.
So why a tribunal? Why a tribunal now? It's time. In fact, it's past time.
The foundation took very seriously what we were asking these women to do. To document testimonies of the most traumatic experiences in their lives and to share them half a world away with 1,300 people. We needed to ensure that they felt represented, that they felt authentic.
Those ones, I have the grandchildren I'm supporting. The other girl, she's my girl. But
that they felt every word of that testimony reflected not just the worst moments of their lives, but all of their resilience, all of their strength, and everything they did to overcome those challenges.
Ji okong'eyo gi nikech sama gidong kod nyithindo gin kata gi chandruok.
Young people, when they found out they were positive,
Ani piny mangima kamano ma wuo to dhako machiliel mok oter moamini nyithinde kende gi nyikwaye oniga obe ketie gap moro madimiyo odhi mbele kama moko dog chien ni odhi mbele kama.
People's tribunals play an important role in giving voice to women's human rights. In this case, those of African grandmothers, who have come to tell their stories in their own words. Many of the 1,300 in the audience today will be from the Grandmothers to Grandmothers campaign. 10,000 women strong in Canada, come to listen, come to bear witness, and to stand in solidarity.
We are getting ready for the day. Today is the day. Today is the day.
At the root of all of this, I cannot say this strongly enough, at the root of all of this lies gender inequality. Until we break the gender inequality, we will never break the pandemic, and the grandmothers of Africa are the centerpiece of this reality. Today, the grandmothers will address you, probably as never before in a forum of this kind, where their voices will be heard with piercing clarity, and you will feel the pain, the anguish, but the courage, the love, the tenacity, the indomitability of the grandmothers of Africa. It is beyond description how powerful and how important it is, just as it is beyond description the way in which the Canadian grandmothers have rallied to the cause. And I say to everyone in this room, all of you who've come here today for this, what will undoubtedly be a remarkable, if at times wrenching tribunal, all of you should be feeling pride in being here and participating in such a venture of so much importance. Thank you immensely for coming.
It is an election year, and we grandmothers are talking to our MPs, letting them know that if they want our vote, they must change the law. We are not doing this because we like to lob. HIV has robbed us, our key young people who were working to support us. We lob it because of this situation we are in. We are old and we are sick, but someone has to take responsibility for the orphans.
Now, I was left with no children. That day, I realized that you don't have anything in life. And it did become worse before I could turn myself around. I was diagnosed positive. And my husband passed away. But I managed to pull myself together and said, no, I don't want other people's children to die like my own children. This is what I told myself. I'm going to work hard with this animal of HIV. I want to fight it. I also want to help people. I want everybody to know what HIV really is.
Mu mwaka ogwa 2011 kitovu mobile yatandika okuyamba abakadde. Embeera yange yatandika okukyuka. Abaana bange baddayo mu ssomero kubanga nasobola okusonda ssente okuva mu birime okusasula ebisale by'essomero. Mpulira bulungi nti nsobola okutuusa ku bazzukulu bange ebyetaago nga yunifoomu, engatto, emmere awaka ne mu ssomero. Naye ekyennaku kitovu mobile terina buyambi busobola kuyamba bajjajja bonna. Bangi ku bakadde balina ebizibu by'ettaka era ne mu kibiina kyange mulimu abakadde babiri ng'ettaka lyabwe lyatwalibwa.
I'm honored today to be reading to you a story of Mama F. Mama F is one of our sisters from Zimbabwe, and she was not able to be with us here because it's not safe for her to testify in open. So please listen to her story. After being helped, I say to myself, I'm okay. What about others? I took courses and trainings, and now I'm a community worker with CHEDSA. I tell them not to give up. They can come out of the worst situation. I do a lot of advocacy with other women in my community about violence. I'm also working as a paralegal, especially for women who are battered. The way I see it, it is my community, and I must take care of it. And people must move. They must change. If I see something that is wrong, I go and report it. If the police don't take action, I change the police station. And if the next police station won't take action, I'll report to the police headquarters until the case is dealt with. I have this determination to fight because my community and my children, I love them so much. I won't accept any bad things happening before my eyes. I won't be quiet. I don't want crooked things, and I'll try to make them straight.
Asebedo ranyisi ni gima ji wacho ter ok en adiera. Nikech kata ok oteri nyithindi ok nyal tho. An ok otera to nyithinda ok otho kendo gi ngima. Amor kendo jogweng' wuoro. Kinde ni jogweng' omiya luor kendo mon matindo biro ira ka gipenja kendo ajiwogi. Kendo mon mok oter masejiwo nyithindgi dhi maber ok otho.
I'm a leader in my community. I have learned so much about how to counsel and mobilize other grandmothers, encouraging them to have hope, understanding their rights, their healthcare entitlements, and access government programs. I know the work is not finished yet and that there is more to be done. I also know that other grandmothers take strength and hope from coming together, from seeing me in the role of leadership in the community, and also to feel proud and happy to know that my people are being served.
Good afternoon. I'm Spiwe Hlope from Swaziland. I am the Executive Director of SWAPOL. Because SWAPOL works in the heart of the communities, we can see the whole picture. We understand that the only way to resurrect and improve the quality of life for grandmothers is to understand them as a whole human beings. You cannot properly implement any program if you don't understand the individual challenges. Community-based organizations are deeply connected to their communities. And this is a very important factor in our success in fighting HIV and AIDS. In fact, CBOs have provided much of the fabric that keeps communities together. At the same time, the CBOs have been delivering essential services. We have been reconnecting people, redeveloping relationships, overcoming the fear and discrimination that was separating people and keeping them isolated. We are helping people recreate, rediscover the community bonds that have been there for generations. We carry the responsibilities with great concern and love, but we have done it without adequate support or recognition of our expertise for far too long.
Through years of experience, we've developed a process for working with grandmothers that really does help them to turn their lives around.
In every new community, we ask them to identify the 100 grandmothers who have the greatest need and should be helped by Kit of Mobile's program. The first step for the grannies is to get to know their general status. We help right away with the urgent needs like medical care, food and housing. Then we think about their emotional needs. We set up solidarity groups for the grandmothers so they can share. No, they are not alone They need bereavement counseling to mourn the death they have suffered. They share and cry until they are able to cope. That's when we start to give them training. We empower them to realize they can make a livelihood for themselves and give them assistance to do it. We lobby to get some funds for the grandmothers' solidarity groups, and they save their own funds as well so they can help one another. This way, they are not dependent on the project for assistance because they build their own community support.
The grandmothers are regenerating and reclaiming their sense of purpose in life.
The exploitation, the marginalization, and the abuse of women who've given so much to their communities has to be recognized and remedied. And the people who've been doing that recognition, the people who've been pushing for those remedies, have tended to be small community-based organizations and local NGOs. It's these organizations that have helped grandmothers find their voices, helped grandmothers organize themselves, and helped grandmothers become really powerful advocates for change. Grandmothers have shown the kind of inspirational leadership that has made a difference to their families and to their communities. And what we need to look at is, how do we make sure that that kind of inspirational leadership gets the type of support that it truly deserves?
One constant in the life stories of all of the grandmothers that they shared with us today is the extreme depletion of their resources in every sense: economic, emotional, physical, and spiritual, because of the challenges they have faced struggling to support families devastated by HIV/AIDS. The great strength, wholehearted commitment, and continuing resolve that they have demonstrated in such desperate circumstances tells the world something very important about hope and the human spirit. No one can remain untouched after hearing these stories, but we collectively have an obligation to respond with more than simple admiration for the heroism of these women. The burden that grandmothers across sub-Saharan Africa have been carrying is a highly unjust burden, and it should be placed back onto the shoulders of the rightful owners. Grandmothers' human rights are being doubly violated. First, of course, because they themselves are not being protected as they should be from extreme poverty, hunger, and homelessness. But also, second and more insidiously, because they have been left to meet the burden of the state's proper responsibilities for the children and vulnerable people in the community through their own unpaid labor.
We are at an important crossroads in our response in the fight against HIV/AIDS. On one hand, with the discovery of treatment effectiveness for prevention, the possibility of reaching zero new infections actually seems to be in reach. On the other, financial constraints and donor exhaustion make future funding uncertain and are placing a premium on targeted short-term investments. Is the right time to be seriously reflecting on what the HIV/AIDS response really needs to be and what it needs to achieve. HIV/AIDS is a medical emergency only in the most immediate sense. At a deeper level, it is a profound development challenge and a human rights crisis for the people and communities infected and affected by the disease. The end point of the response can't simply be seen as zero new infections. Our goal must be to restore the health and well-being of people who live in countries hardest hit by HIV/AIDS, and the promise of decent futures that they can work together to build.
So, the grandmothers to you who are raising the children of the lost, you are teaching by your lives and your stories. And perhaps in the future, historians will look back and say, this is when a lethal illness forced females to rebel and allowed men to see their humanity in those who rescued them. This was the time of the grandmothers, and let it begin now.
We know that you speak for millions of grandmothers and the organizations supporting them. We understand that this is not an exercise in charity or benevolence. The threshold of tolerance for injustice must be shattered today. And the resources and support you require to effect change in the face of AIDS, whether it's pensions, access to health care, or to be consulted and counted in the responses to the pandemic, must be acted upon. We will all take up your call to action and the recommendations of the judges, and we will not rest until the world comes to its senses and the support that should and must come is yours.
We, the grandmothers of Africa, speak to you now as the guardians of the future. Our labor with all of its struggles, challenges, knowledge, and triumphs has gone unhidden for too long. We'll not let AIDS pandemic defeat us, nor destroy our communities. But we cannot prevail alone. Africa cannot survive without us. We call on you to act with agency and purpose to support our efforts, secure justice. It is time, and the time is now.
We shall overcome.